In this multidimensional world, much of which is invisible to the eye, a group of non-physical entities have come here to expand our knowledge of how the universe works. These non-physical teachers are called Joshua, and they convey their teaching through Gary Temple Bodley. Each week, Gary, with a selection of law of attraction experts, open up a roundtable of thought-provoking discussions surrounding the teachings of Joshua. Joshua's intention is to bring clarity to the listeners through the ever-expanding law of attraction by looking at reality from a new perspective. Welcome to the teachings of Joshua Roundtable.
Hello everyone, this is episode 6 of the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable. I'm your host, Gary Temple Bodley. Today it's November 14th, 2015. In our first few episodes, we covered a lot of really interesting topics, and today we're going to talk about the power of intention. Have you ever thought about how you get what you get? Is there a way to consciously choose how you want something to go? Can you actually manifest the outcome you prefer? How can setting intentions leverage the power of the universe to alter the future? Did you know that you set intentions for this life even before you were born? Today, we intend to understand how intentions work. The question of the week was asked by our own Steve Finizza when he was doing the one-on-one program with Joshua. It has to do with the fear we all have that people might find out that we believe in all this law of attraction voodoo. It's a wonderful answer, so be sure to stay tuned. On the roundtable today, we have Steve Finizza. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Gary.
And Janine Kodakovich. Hi, Janine.
Hi, Gary.
And we're doing this sort of remotely because Steve is in some sleepy beach town in California talking to us on his cell phone, and he's got a laptop and he's recording everything.
In a parking lot.
In a parking lot next to a freeway. So hopefully this will all go good because we intend that it will.
Yes.
All right, great. So before we get started on talking about intentions, let's go and take a look at Joshua's quote of the week. Janine, do you have that?
I do. Most of your decisions are based on getting to your goals as fast as you can. Since the journey is your prize, not the goal, relax about time. There's no need to rush. Joshua.
That's one of the early Joshua quotes, and it's on the website in the quotes, and it's the guy on the bench in Spain, I think, underneath this canopy of umbrellas. It's really a beautiful picture. And he's just relaxing there, and that's what makes that quote so cool. Is because, we're always making decisions on how to get what we want to get as fast as we can get it, when really it's the fun of the journey to getting your goal that is really the prize. The goal itself is never really as fun. By the time you get the goal, you're sort of like, okay, what's next? The goal it's always that exhilarating adrenaline rush of having fun in the moment that you're doing stuff, even though sometimes it might not feel good. That's what it's all about.
It's the journey.
The journey, and it's hard to understand, but if you really take a look at it, and a lot of new businesses, it's always those first few tough months that are the most fun. Even though you're not making money and you don't have customers and you could fail at any moment, you're trying something new. I remember when we started my real estate company, and it was just me, my dad, and my best friend Bruce, and we're in this little office on fold-out tables, and with a couple of phones and maybe one computer back then, and here we are, I had to start everything from scratch. And we went to lunch every day, and we had no money, and we tried to make things work. And when somebody got a sale, we all were just thrilled about it. And if you look back at that time, that really was the most fun time of the whole thing, and the closest the three of us were ever together too. It was a lot of fun.
This kind of goes along with what you're talking about, the journey. I had a conversation with my son the other night where for me, this is all very new, learning this and the reality of it. And so he came back, he's doing this new esports thing where he's part of a video gaming team, and they're competing like at the local mall, but it goes all the way up. I mean, you can do championships, right? And I was trying to tell him that, if you really want to do this, you can make it happen. It's your intention. It's, all this, and he actually complained to me a little bit. He said, Dad, I understand all that, but you're taking me out of the movie every time I talk to you, and what I'm enjoying is the movie. I want to live this life, and it was weird how he took it kind of to the next level, because I'm so into. I want to know it's a movie. I want to know that it's not real and that I have some control over it. And he's more about, hey, I already know that. Stop reminding me about that. I want to enjoy the movie. And I thought that was just another level for me that it's never clicked yet.
That's pretty interesting, because I remember in college we took a film class, and the teacher says, by the end of this class, you'll wish you never took this class, because we're going to tell you all the inside details, and it's going to screw up every movie you ever watch for the rest of your life. Yes.
I was watching a TV show with my wife, and I go, I can't get into it, because the whole time I'm thinking about camera angles, and and they're laughing and enjoying it, and I feel like I'm missing out.
That's so funny. Yeah. But look at your son. Here you are saying, well, this is an endeavor you're taking, and you can really take this to these great levels and everything, and this could be a career, and you could win championships. And all he's thinking is, this is what I want to do on Saturday for fun.
Yeah, I just want to have fun. Exactly. Stop reminding me.
Well, it's interesting.
Steve, I think that was very insightful of your son, really and truly, because he's truly enjoying the journey, and he wanted to stay in his own space.
Yeah, I know. We mentioned this in the past. He's definitely a teacher to me. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, today we're going to talk about intentions, and this is from Chapter 5 of A Perception of Reality. And intentions are a big part of Joshua's teachings. And there's two types or two parts to intention. And one is the intentions that we made before we were born, and then everyday life intentions, what we want to accomplish for the day, or for the month, or whatever. Not really goals, but sort of more general than goals. It was interesting in the chapter. It starts off really talking about that before we were born, we set intentions for what we wanted to explore this time around, which makes a lot of sense. It's sort of like, when you go to Disneyland, you want to enjoy pretty much everything that's there. You want to ride the Matterhorn. You want to go in the teacups. You want to go in Pirates of the Caribbean. But there might be something more specific that you want to explore as well, and that might be the thing that really interests you. So before we were born, we set intentions generally to experience joy and abundance and freedom and happiness and love. And then we also picked out one or two more specific intentions. And some people call those life's purpose, but Joshua says more that it's just an intention. And it's no big deal if you ever find it or not. But if you do find it, that you're going to find it through your passions and interests. Have you guys figured out what your specific intentions were so far?
Go ahead, Janine.
First of all, I just wanted to say, Gary, this was absolutely one of my favorite chapters in the book, on intentions and setting those. And you know what? When I was rereading the chapter, I actually had smiles on my face, realizing that anything within reason that I set my mind to, I can change. And I realized when I was rereading this that, sometimes I fall into these pitfalls, into my old ways, and get back out of it. And when I realized that I have the ability to set that intention and meet it, that's when I'm truly living in my blissful state, when I follow that. And I will tell you, I would encourage every listener out there not only to read the whole book, but this particular chapter 4 just really resonated with me. Steve, what did you think about it?
I loved it too. It's like when you read it again, you're in a different place and you get something completely different out of it. And for me, it's like I'm noticing that, and I would have not guessed this 10 years ago, but what my interests and passions are leading is this. It's this law of attraction stuff, and talking about it with people, and lately what I've noticed is that I really think I like teaching it, right? But then I get hung up on, and this chapter addressed that, it's like, especially several of my very close friends, they're not into it, right? They are not into it. And I'm just like frustrated that to me it's like, why would somebody not want to know this stuff, right?
Right.
But then this chapter said, some people come with the intention of watching the movie. They don't want to know about this other stuff, and that's fine. And and he goes into detail, like, just let them live their life. It's perfect for them. And so it kind of helped me, get over this, like, I got to do everything I can do to help, right? Like I'm throwing them a lifeline. Needs this, they don't need help. They are fine the way they are.
Well, that's the interesting part of the book is in this chapter, it addresses that everyone comes here for an intention to experience something in physical reality. And that intention could be to experience poverty or solitude or servitude, or it could be to experience power and wealth, and neither one is better than the other. From our perspective, which is limited, we tend to think that a life of solitude is not as good as a life being surrounded by others, or a life of poverty is not as good as a life of wealth. But Joshua will say that you can be the poorer and happier than the wealthiest person, which we can see that now all the time. And you could be, living a life of solitude and being more fulfilled than those who are surrounded by people that, maybe annoy them or, drive them crazy.
And he says,
and vice versa. But yeah, to think that you need to help somebody just because they're living life differently than you, would like to live. And that's the issue, because you want to live this life, and that's why you're living this life. But they want to explore it. Go ahead, see if you're going to say something.
Yeah, well, yeah, but to finish what you said, yes, it obviously is one of my intentions because I'm so into it, right?
Right.
So I can see that.
And that's how you know, because you're totally focused and interested, and this is becoming a passion.
Right. But what I was going to piggyback off what you were saying earlier is that, and yes, living a life of poverty adds value because you can't really truly enjoy opulent riches unless you've experienced the opposite side. So every experience is valuable in the end.
Which is very hard to understand. I have the biggest, my best friend Bruce really loves Joshua, and we've been friends since we were 15. He's really into it. He's asked Joshua questions. The things he cannot get, because he's such an uplifter, is that he believes that people do need his help. And I'm saying, well, if it inspires you and you feel good, that's fine. And he will attest to this, every time he tries to help somebody, it backfires because they're going through what they're going through. And unless they specifically come and ask him for help, your help just sort of gets in the way of what they're trying to do. And they'll never, you'll never get the result that you think that they should have out of your help.
Yeah. They're creating their reality, and they're like, subconsciously, leave me alone. I'm doing this on purpose, even though they may not realize it.
And it's also because if you look at somebody that you think you need to help, you're looking at them in a lackful way. You can only see the negative sides of it, and you're trying to move them from your perception of negative, and that focus makes it even more negative.
Yeah. And you take it on yourself. You take that vibration onto yourself.
Janine, what you said too was really interesting, is that you can intend anything within reason, and that's a really big key about it, because it has to align with your beliefs. You may want to intend to win the lottery, but if you don't believe that it's possible, then it doesn't matter what you intend. So as long as it aligns with the beliefs you already have, but you can also alter your beliefs too over time.
Absolutely. Another thing, to take this one step further in chapter 4, there's no coincidence I reread that just this morning, because Joshua said in that chapter, he said, let us not focus on hate, rather set our intention on peace and love for the world. And, after yesterday's attacks, I needed to read that because I realized, what, there is going to be so many great and heartwarming stories that come out in the days ahead from so many people helping, opening their homes, the first responders, people coming together. And I was so grateful reading this. I have to tell you, it reset my whole morning and my whole outlook. On the days ahead, and that's what my intention is. My intention is truly to truly for world peace. That's where I'm setting my intention.
And you can only do it individually. You can't ask others to do it.
Nope.
So I was talking to Joshua about this myself. mentally, obviously. And what I got was that personally, right now, I cannot be offended. You cannot say anything to offend me or do anything to offend me. You can't, even if you were to say this whole Joshua thing is a bunch of crap and it's all made up and this is a big fraud, I would say you're right. It is to you, and that's fine. And I can't take offense. And if we all live that way, where nothing can offend us, then we don't have to attack the other person or make them wrong in any way. And as we are moving as a not society, but as a race of humans from fear-based to love-based, these events which are occurring, if this was 100 years ago, we wouldn't know the depth of this. We would maybe hear a news report or something. But today, we know every single aspect of this event, from Twitter to Instagram to 24-hour news. And so it seems so much bigger than it really is on the grand scale of life. But what it's doing is pouring love to France from all over the world. And you can sort of just feel how this event is bringing the world together. And, it happened in the Boston Marathon, too. I mean, Boston Strong came out of that. I mean, I still sort of choke up at that aspect of that. So even though these things seem
When you
so
just
bad,
said, I'm sorry, Gary, when you just said that, my whole body was infused with chills because the world is sending love to France right now.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because last week I heard a few sort of derogatory comments about France from people. I don't know how, maybe it was in the news or something, or just people talking. And here this happens, and now everyone is just totally turned 180 and is really pouring their love and support to them.
Do you even want to broach the subject? But as far as intention, Joshua would say that everybody who was impacted or was killed during this thing actually intended this at some level.
Yeah, and people aren't going to believe that.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
If you think, right, it's all, and this is, school shootings are the same thing. That this is an act that's put on, a play that's all intended ahead of time to bring the world from fear to love, and to alter certain things. In school shootings, it's more about how children are, brought together in this environment and deal with conflict or emotions and things, and that's being radically changed as we talk about it. And these sort of things, if this was Muslims behind it, or ISIS or whatever, the vast majority of Muslims in the world are peace-loving people that everyone would love and have as a neighbor. And they're going to be the ones that are the most affected by this themselves, and they're going to be the ones that come to realize that maybe this isn't the way we should be thinking about it. Maybe we should be thinking about coexisting instead of trying to push our religion on everyone else. I don't know, but there's something about that that's coming out as well. So if we could all be ourselves personally, without the ability to even get offended, then you don't have to make the other person wrong ever, and you can allow them to live whatever they want to live. And this way we really dissolve conflict altogether.
Well, Joshua says in this chapter that we have more contrast today than we've had in history.
Which is a good thing, because we get to come here and explore more different things.
Yeah, it's just more and more for our pie to put into it.
Yeah. And so, you can't really understand the mentality behind people that would do these sort of things, or think that these are good things to do, because obviously it just makes it worse for them. Especially, it'll be more focused on trying to eradicate them.
They were obviously in a low vibrational state, and this sounded like a good idea from where they were.
It was the way to make themselves feel better or more powerful, because they just feel they have no power.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we talked about that, because I was thinking, you can't really go through a show the day after something like that without mentioning it, especially in a more enlightened or conscious framework where everyone might be placing blame and trying to fix the problem. The problem can only be fixed on your own personal level.
And if everybody should know that you are creating your own reality, so you can't have ISIS thrust themselves into your reality and cause you any harm. It's only, well, and again, this is an advanced topic, but it's only by invitation. So there's nothing really to worry about.
So and our focus on the wrongness of it just makes it more wrong. Here's an analogy that I don't know if it's is apropos or not, but ISIS affects you personally. If you were to go online and watch a video, right, of a beheading or something, but if you don't choose to do that, then ISIS doesn't affect you, and that's how it comes into your reality or not. You can peacefully go about your life, which let's say 1/1,000,000% are affected by ISIS in their lifetime. But if you give your attention to the news problem, then you're completely affected, just as you were if you were in Paris at the time. So by taking your attention away from it and focusing on what you do want, ISIS has no factor in your life whatsoever for anything that you don't want.
I would say just take the balance when referring to that is, what do you want? You want peace. You want people to love each other, and you just focus on that. Which
is actually taking the event and turning it into the higher perspective, looking at it from a higher perspective, and making yourself feel much better about it. Because I can feel better about the thought of people pouring love towards the people of France, and that feels good.
Yeah,
that's the whole point. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Janine.
It really, it just came to me when I was rereading the chapter this morning, and we, like you said, Gary, we almost couldn't ignore it. But the good that came of it was my realization that, all of us collectively can set that intention on peace and love and everything going to France right now. So,
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it changes the mass consciousness.
Absolutely.
One thing in this chapter is the world is progressing as intended. So these, like you said, Steve, this was part of the intended process. We may seem to be in turmoil, but it's only because we can get so much information so quickly. The perception is that there are a lot of these problems happening everywhere. But really, every time something happens, we move to another level vibrationally, because people now feel more empowered. They're not cowering in fear. They're standing up for what they believe in, and that whole Boston Strong movement just proves that exactly.
Yep.
Another part of intentions is, I think it's really interesting. I talked to a lot of people, and they don't really understand, what their passion is. And my understanding is that your specific intentions are your passions. But you ask a lot of people and they go, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. I sort of like this. I sort of like this. And I wonder how people get to find their passion.
Well, it's supposed to follow your interests.
Yeah. So, Steve, you have a ton of passions. Like, what's your major passion, would you say?
Well, it would be a close call between this stuff and anything with an engine in it. So motorcycles, cars. It's like that's okay. What I do for fun.
So how did you find motorcycle riding and car racing? How did you get into that?
My dad had motorcycles and muscle cars when I was growing up. So that's what kick-started me on this.
So Joshua says, before you're born, you were intended certain specific things. So you choose your parents, your family, and the date and time and place of your birth, so that you are launched onto this trajectory so that you can find your passion. So isn't it interesting that you chose a father who was into this?
And I just realized this, and my mom was really into the voodoo stuff. Like, she took me to a transcendental meditation class when I was just a little teenager, and exposed me to all sorts of different religions. So it's actually a perfect balance between my two passions.
It's true for me too. My mother took me when she was living in New York, and I was maybe 14 or 15, to meditate with a Maharaji or something, with
Yeah.
a yeah, and I really enjoyed it. It was a transcendental meditation where we left our bodies and went through the ceiling into the moon and came back. And for most people, most of my friends would have thought that's the weirdest thing in the world and would never want to do it.
That's really weird. I've never met anybody else who's had a transcendental meditation thing when they were a teenager, and I didn't
Yeah,
know that about you.
yeah.
Wow, what a coinky dink.
It was interesting too because we would spend time with this guy who was really interesting. Go see movies with him, and he used to do this thing where we would have M&Ms, before the movie starts, and he would say, "Okay, put an M&M in your hand. Don't let me see it, and just think of the color." And he would guess it every time, every single time. And then he said, "Okay, now I'm going to put one in my hand, and I'm going to think of the color, and you think of it." And my brother couldn't do this, but I could guess it every time. And he
Wow,
said, yeah, he says, that is our connection there.
that's showing there's something going on.
Right. So for me, I mean, I never knew that Josh would come about. In fact, you guys, it's the 14th. I think it's the anniversary of the first day of the first page of Joshua that was written. When I was meditating and heard right, right, right was November 15th, 2013. So it's
Wow.
like an anniversary day today. Ginny,
Coincidence or not, Gary?
well, I don't know. Here we are 2 years later talking about it. But I never intended it. But I did from my, prior to life.
That's pretty quick, 2 years.
2 years, all this stuff has happened. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
amazing.
that's really quick.
Okay, so
You're on the
Janine,
fast track, Gary. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say you're on the fast track.
think about your family that you were born into,
Yeah.
and where that led you to what you're interested in.
The family I was born into, it's funny because it's really later. I have two brothers, two sisters. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized my younger sister and I were both into the spiritual things. Like we were both
Uh,
reading and listening and going to lectures, seminars without even knowing it. And then
wow.
once we talked about it, now she's truly one of my best friends. We share things day in and day out, positive quotes, little anything that comes up. As far as like passions, you were talking about that. I thought about this yesterday because one of my passions is photography.
Yeah.
And recently, I had posted something on Facebook, and one of my friends said, if anything's like a feel good thing, a lot of people like it and love to see that, right?
Right.
One of
Uh-huh.
my Facebook friends said, Janine, some of your pictures are so magnificent. You should really think about doing a like coffee table book. And I thought, why can't I? Why can't I? Just because I'm not a professional photographer, I have a vision and I have an eye for it. And even yesterday alone, I happened to walk out in my backyard. We have a very tropical backyard. It happens to be my husband's passion, and it happens to be my sanctuary. And
Uh-huh.
I walked out there, and there was the most beautiful bird of paradise. This plant was just blooming all over. And I just took a picture of one of those, one of the bird of paradise, and I posted it. And I just put, like, on this beautiful Friday afternoon, this is just a reminder to see the beauty that surrounds us and look for it because it's there.
Right.
And, you know, so you know what and sometimes when you follow your passion, it brightens someone else's day. It's not just about you, it's about
That's
what
right.
you can do. It's about the example you can be to others. It's about I feel like this a lot of people sense your love and light, and they just resonate with you.
So here you are on a radio show talking about Joshua, who, you know, compared to everything else is relatively unknown, but we all understand that it's a little bit more of the expansion of the law of attraction idea. It's the next level to it. So you've somehow become vibrationally in sync with this subject. What was your childhood like? Were you in a religious family, or did you go to church a lot?
I did. I was born and raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school early on in elementary, and when I went into public school as I got older, I always, went to Sunday school and continued on like that.
Uh-huh.
So, and honestly, my mom was Protestant and she converted. My dad was Catholic. So we were all raised that way. And I think after I got married and when Tim and I were talking about having children, that's when I decided, wow, I really haven't been practicing as much, and plus Tim and I both had our own questions about our religion. So we went out there and explored. And I'll tell you what, we went to a lot of different churches just to see what it was out there. And I think today that's why I'm so accepting. I do not, I have a higher power I call God. But it doesn't matter to me what religion anyone is. If they're calling their higher power God, Allah, Baba, Krishna, Buddha, that's their decision. I think from doing that and visiting and exposing myself to many religions, I think I have a greater tolerance for everything. There is, so that's that. But I will tell you one thing about my childhood. I tend to think I grew up with having a lot of fear. And that's what I've conquered, I might say. I know that's kind of a strong word, but
Right.
all of this work has taken me to a place to dispel that fear and doubt and instead have that belief system that, I can change this. Just because that was imprinted in me when I was younger doesn't mean I have to carry it forth. And writings like this and reading these books and it has taken me to a different place. And for that, I'm grateful. And I do know that other people sense that about me. So it's like almost like I've mentioned this before, but they want more of what you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not even sure exactly what it is they see in you, but they see that the light shining so bright, they want some of it. And sometimes I'm unsure of it, to be quite honest with you, but I just go with the flow now. And wherever I'm taken to or whatever is brought to my attention at that particular moment, whether it's a book, a show, a person, that's where I need to be because there is no coincidence or set right before my eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you and I first met, I'm friends with Tim and we went out to dinner. It's like you and I sat next to each other and we just started talking about this subject where I would not normally talk about with people I met on their first day. And
exactly, but don't you feel like like-minded people are being drawn together? And look,
absolutely.
Even Steve and you just had a realization right here, live on the show today. Not even being aware that that each other had that experience early on in life.
And that's the whole law of attraction at work. And here we are going to talk about Steve's question, which is we are sort of afraid to talk about this to other people. We're sort of, and this is why Josh is never going to go viral because nobody wants to put this on the Facebook,
Yeah. I still haven't.
I know, me neither.
My hope is one day they will. Gary.
Because we're all like worried about what people think of us. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to come out at some point. This might cause it. I noticed my last name's in this thing, so here we go.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because in poker, people Google each other to see what your winnings are because a lot of that stuff's posted on the bigger tournaments. And one of my friends, I don't know if I mentioned this before, he came up and he said, "Wow, you write all these books and everything." And I said, "I don't write them." He goes, "Don't even talk to me about that." He was like, "You are really smart. You're writing all these books." I didn't write them. It came through me. He goes, "Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Get away." Okay.
But then think about all those people that you are helping by being that person that.
Oh yeah, no, I love doing it. Even though it's a little weird, it's getting less weird every day.
I think I'm the most thankful of the entire planet. So.
And I think as we all move forward, we're going to see that more and more people. We're going to find more and more like-minded people in our lives that are attracted to this.
Yep, we sure are.
It's law.
It's law. We're all going to, yeah. It's people are finding it more and more. It's almost like the chart. If you look at the people who are signing up to the newsletter, this graph from month to month is just curving up in that way. That's just expanding every month. Is more and more and more per month than the previous month adding on.
Absolutely. I had to attend 2 nights ago. I had to attend a county function, and I'm on the board. And I went to this, but prior to going to it, one of the other board members called me, and wanted to make sure indeed I could still be there and how Tim was doing. And I said yes, I'm going to come to the event. We just got like on this topic that I had no idea she was into this spiritual realm at all. Not only did we and neither one of us realized it about each other because we're used to seeing ourselves in that professional atmosphere out there in the county.
Mm-hmm.
When this became of late, all of a sudden now I received a text yesterday. She invited me next weekend to a gratitude seminar, fully comped on the pay it forward type of thing.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. And she said, Janine, I cannot believe what you're saying to me right now because my beliefs are the same. And then she went on and I realized, wow, she's really far along on her path. And I would not have known that. But yet sometimes, Gary, just like our first conversation, sometimes these things do come out and they're revealed.
Lily has a whole bunch of books at her store and they're just under the counter there. And whenever she talks about somebody and they just mention interest in this, she'll give them a book. And so one of her new pickers is this woman who organizes mansions for people in Palm Beach when they're moving in or moving out or need some help organizing. And so she has all this furniture and she brings it to Lily and they got talking and she gave her the book. And out of the blue, I mean, is halfway through, keeps saying how much she loves it and everything, and who would know, And this woman is, just someone that came into our lives by total chance, and she's connecting to what we're doing, and doesn't think that I'm weird, which is nice.
That's always nice.
Yeah.
And the more we relinquish that fear and put it out there for others to know what it's all about, the more and more people that are going to keep coming into our lives.
I wonder how humor, like when you say something in a funny way, is that the same as intending, because we say something like, I was just kidding, that she thinks I'm weird, but, is that really putting it out there, or is the humor part of it sort of
the humor part diffuses it. It diffuses it a little bit and makes it okay. I think it's okay because I tend to do that a lot myself, and it works. So if it works, use it.
Ultimately, it's your vibration. So if you're feeling good while you're saying it,
I think so too. I think that even though it is your words that are words and actions and thoughts that that create what comes to you, it's ultimately your vibration. And if no one's more humorous than Abraham, for instance.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, you want to get on to your question?
Yeah, I think it's a great piggyback off of the whole weirdness thing. So perfect.
Let's start with the one-on-one program and how that all started.
Oh.
If people don't know.
Well, sure. How did that start?
So you were asking questions, maybe one or two a month or something, and you asked a few questions, but they were like these big questions, and so Joshua came to me and said, let's do this thing where Steve asks a lot of questions, so it'll force him to ask these little questions as well.
Also, I thought what was unique is that when I first met you, I kind of sent you a rather lengthy, I was inspired, and I don't know why, to send you a rather lengthy email about kind of like my life and where I'd been and where I was going. And I went into quite a bit of detail, and I think that kind of maybe set the background for you. So you kind of knew who you were dealing with.
Yeah. So the deal was that you had to ask 3 to 4 questions a week or more. It was 6 months. You had to do it for 6 months. And you couldn't make any big changes during that time, and you had to meditate every day.
Yes.
Which is interesting, And had you meditated before that?
I was never regular about it. It was more off and on. But actually, since I've started, it's been every day, including today.
And what was the most challenging aspect of this?
I would say coming up with the questions on that regular of a basis, which was Joshua's intention, was because sometimes I would ask questions that I felt were kind of dumb or silly, And they would turn out to be some of the most profound answers that I got.
Yeah, and Janine, so this lasted for 6 months from December of last year to about June of this year. And there's 100 questions, or about 105 questions, something like that. And we've turned it into a book called Conversations with Steve. And I sent it to my agent. She's the first one to read it. And she's like, this is the most compelling, brilliant book that she's read in a long time, because it's a page turner. It starts with this first question. And once you get done with the question, and the answer, you want to read the next question, because it's sort of one leads into the other one, and you can't stop reading it. Once it was put into print,
it's out for all of us.
Yeah, it's cool. So if anyone out there wants to do a one-on-one program, that's the deal. You have to ask 3 to 4 questions a week. There's a small fee for it, because it's sort of a lot of work on my part to do it too, and it makes people commit to it too when they're paying for something. A normal question anyone can ask for free. If there's time, we get quite a lot of questions in, so we do try and do 3 or 4 a day. But the one-on-one people get upfront, and the first is pretty fun to do. So go ahead and let's start your this question, which is question 96 from July 14th.
Yes,
this year.
2015. Okay, Joshua, I have an irrational fear of people I work with discovering our one-on-one dialogue on the Joshua website. I just feel like I will be ridiculed and potentially be taken less seriously. I know this is irrational, and I also know that by my fear of it, I might potentially attract it. Can you assist me in getting over this? Ideally, I would like to get us to a state of I don't care. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. So the one thing is there's an irrational fear, there's rational fear, which is the fear of falling off a cliff or being eaten by lions, something that could kill you. And irrational fear is anything that has no really ramifications other than you might be embarrassed or something. So you were afraid of being embarrassed.
Well, it's also I'm a manager, and I don't. It just seems weird that I don't know. It probably is irrational, but I still haven't come out at work. So
right.
I'm still there.
And then you want to get into a state of I don't care, which actually I think you're going to even get into a state of, which I'm sort of getting into now, where I'm proud to talk about it and proud to be a teacher of it. So why don't you go ahead and start with the first paragraph there.
Okay. Dear Steve, imagine if everyone in the world floated in boats down the river. They were moved by the whim of the current, bumping them into rocks and getting them caught up in eddies. Then you come along with an oar, and they think you look strange with your stick in the water. They make fun of you for a little while until they notice you using your oar to move around the rocks and through the eddies. Soon they're asking you where you got your oar, and when you tell them, they no longer think you're strange. Instead, they go out and get their own oars.
I think that's a pretty interesting analogy.
Yeah, that's very cool, actually.
Yeah, all you're doing with this information is making the journey a little more smooth. While they're bumping into rocks and getting stuck,
Yeah.
you're using what you know to get around these things.
I'm navigating deliberately.
Navigating.
Or trying
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the next one.
As you see your fellow man bumping into rocks without an oar, do you hide your oar from them, or do you show them how to get their own oar? It's simply a matter of perspective, and we love showing you the higher perspective.
Yeah, so if you had an oar, you wouldn't think your oar was strange, even if they thought your oar was strange, because they've never seen an oar before. But you know it works. And if they, you don't have to make them use an oar, but if they come to you asking for an oar, or if they come to you asking, well, what do you think about this? Or how does this work? Now it's a different perspective. Now it's, you can let them float down the river without an oar if they want to, but if they come asking, then maybe now you can think about yourself differently.
Right, and that's the key there, is that they're interested in it. I'm
Right.
not hitting them with my oar saying, you should use this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Let's take this a step further and think about the book called One-on-One with Steve Maritza. It's a bestseller, and people all over the world receive new insights about life and physical reality. The book changes lives. You become world famous, You are invited to appear on talk shows of every variety. The interviewers want to know one thing. They want to know how your life was changed as a result of this experience. What will you tell them?
And now we know that the book is called Conversations with Steve.
Yeah.
Because we left Steve Finita out because of this problem.
Yeah. And you even offered, you said Conversations with Julio or something.
Right, you could have made a different name.
And I said, well, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So what will you tell them?
Well,
When Oprah says, "Hey, Steve, what was this experience like?"
I wish I could tell them. I think it's awesome. But at the same time, Joshua said at the very beginning of the one-on-one program, he says, "You will never feel like you're done or you're there or you got it or
Right.
there's always going to be more to learn." And
Yeah.
it's like, the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. It's like it's a continuous journey. But when I think back to who I was prior to this program, I really see a lot of growth, and I'm just incredibly thankful, and I feel like life is easier for me because things don't bother me like they used to. I'm happier. It's just I feel like I won the lottery in a little bit of a way,
Yeah. Cool. Okay. The next paragraph.
When you are famous as a result of this book and the movie, will you worry about what people will think of you? When Oprah is chatting with you and is incredibly interested in your story, will you care what your coworkers think? Do you know what they'll be thinking when you go on to be famous? They'll be thinking, why didn't he share any of this with me? It would have helped me a lot back then.
So that's a different perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's kind of goes back to, I had a very close friend who I never shared any of this with, right? This part of me was just off, and then she was diagnosed with cancer, and it took a diagnosis of cancer for me to get the nerve to then share this stuff and I gave her the first Joshua book, and I had a lot of fear because I knew that her mom and dad were very religious in the classic sense, and her friends, and right off the bat there was some negative, probably because it was part of my vibration. They were mad. They were instantly mad because it's one of the messages of this whole law of attraction is that you take responsibility for what happens in your life, and that you are the creator of what happens in your life. And in the moment, kind of like I felt the same way with Janine's manifestation event. No one wants to hear you create your cancer, right? No one wants to hear, hey, my husband's going to the hospital and somehow this is amazing for me, So it was originally got some flack for sending it, but she, after a couple months, she really took to it, and then she started sending you questions and answers. And I just got she passed away, but I just got a thank you card from her husband saying that he really appreciated my involvement in her life, and that it made her transition so much easier for her. And that's priceless. I mean, to me,
that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. And that was the thing, is that the letters or the questions from her were talking about there is no death, and it's an easy transition, and and you came just at the right time, and she, you were matched up, so she was ready for you.
Yeah, she was within the vicinity, as they say.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next question.
Okay. So when you're worried about others finding out your secret, remember that your secret has the power to radically change their lives. You are like the lighthouse keeper who thinks it's strange to live in a lighthouse, so you turn off your light so that no one can see you. Turn on your light and be proud of what you are doing, because soon enough you will be unable to hide your secret. People will want to know how you are doing it. They will see you happy and see things are working out for you. They will see how good you are with them and how you never get angry or frustrated. They will see your calmness and ease as you go about your day, enjoying every little thing. They will gravitate to you, and they will want to know what you know. Will you keep your secret then? Maybe not. You are loved more than you can imagine.
Yeah. And that goes back to being a shining beacon of alignment, and you will draw in those who are ready for what you have to say. So you never really have to be worried. Yep. I'm worried about people Googling me and seeing all the Joshua stuff, but I never have to be worried about that, because the only people who will ever have that intention will never see the Joshua stuff. They'll just see the poker stuff, or they'll just see whatever. They'll skip right over it. They won't. It won't even be a factor for them because they're not in vibrational sync. And if they are, like my one friend Mike, who thinks it's so weird, every time now we talk about his stressful work. And he just never before did he do this. And now he's coming to me and asking questions like this, So he was ready for some kind of, some information that would help him out with the stress that he's going through.
Wow.
Sounds like he may be intrigued how this works, even though he doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, he's going to end up, going into it. I mean, because he said he spent 2 hours reading everything on there, and he thought it was brilliant, but didn't want to believe that there was a channeling aspect to it.
Well, how else can you explain it?
Well, he just thought it was really smart.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, that's cool.
And he was happy
all
with
the
that.
credit to you and you alone.
Right. I go, okay, well, I don't think that I'm that smart. But, so I think that we don't have to be worried about this, that we're going to bump into people who are ready for it. The law of attraction is responsible for it. As long as we're open and not fearful, we're not going to have any little issues. And when we do, it's going to be a manifestation event that points out that we have a little limiting belief back there that's based in fear. And if we can analyze that and realize that it's irrational, and then diminish the intensity of that limiting belief, then these things won't happen. They only happen if you have that little fear. So if you can release the fear and just allow people to interact with you and listen for little signs here and there, like me and Janine did, connecting, it all works out perfectly.
Towards the end of the chapter, he mentions how fear and
doubt. Why do you keep calling Joshua he?
Okay, they. Because it's easy, that's why. Okay, Joshua they say that fear and doubt is actually good. It actually serves a purpose to slow things down for you. Right. And so, you don't necessarily, like, I'm thinking it's going to happen in the right and perfect time. And so I don't beat myself up over necessarily not coming out and sharing just yet. I want to wait until Joshua says that when you let the universe do its magic, then you get the full manifestation, which is so much more than what you think you want. They have it fleshed out in detail that you couldn't even describe if you tried. So I think it's like a gestation period, right?
Totally right. When I first got done with the book, my best friend Rob says, I'm going to be mad at you if you don't send this to Oprah. And Deborah Jo was like, we got to get this to Oprah. And I'm like, I don't want to send it to Oprah. And the reason is because I need all this practice talking to you and being on this radio show and answering questions and, getting good feedback and building my confidence up and getting into the place where if I were to become big, or if this was to blow up, I'd be ready for it. And right now, I'm not.
This piggybacks off the original quote that Janine read, where why rush it?
Why rush it? Exactly right. We're having fun doing this. This is a lot of fun. I don't know if there's 6 people listening or 6 million people listening, but I wouldn't care anyway because it's just so fun talking with you guys about this stuff. Which who else gets to do stuff like this?
Yes.
Yes.
I look forward.
Everything is always revealed in the perfect and divine timing.
Yeah.
It'll be manifested exactly when it's meant to happen. You will be ready right when you're to be ready.
Yeah.
For the next step, and it is going to get bigger and bolder and.
Yes.
In the right time. Exactly.
If my last name being in here, I used to watch the website, and if I ever saw Fanitza pop up, it was like, oh, Gary, Fanitza's on the website. Please take it down right away. And now, so I have progressed because I'm going to say I don't care right now.
Yeah, and I talked about my younger sister. She is at such a great place right now. Although she's my younger sister, she's very far along on her path, and she will just say these things or put something out there, and she has no worry and no concern about what anyone else thinks of her. As a matter of fact, so much to the point that honestly, people are gravitated towards her now. I'm not sure they even know why.
Good for her.
But she's at that place. And that's a wonderful thing, because honestly, we can all be our true self when we get to that place. And that's our hope. We were sent here to be teachers. I know I was. You obviously both were as well. And this is our calling, and this is what we're meant to do. And we're meant to inspire, and we're meant to be that example, and we're meant to be that beacon of light. Yep. And we'll continue to share it and only get bigger and better, and the light will get brighter.
I'm thinking my perfect job would be I teach people to race on the racetrack, and at the same time I teach them spiritual principles. Okay, can we work that out?
I'm just doing that while I'm playing poker with guys.
Oh, there you go.
Because what everyone says, my nickname is Luckbox. They cannot believe how lucky I am. I go, I am absolutely the luckiest person here. While they're struggling to be skillful and stuff, I'm just getting these lucky hands and these lucky situations, and everything's lucky and everything turns out well. And so I'm teaching them about I'm so positive when I'm there, and it almost annoys them sometimes, but it's very funny. And this one kid who's a very good player, who's semi-professional, has a little kid. He just won a big tournament recently when the World Series was in town. And I had taught him clarity of intention. Just those words is all I said. Clarity of intention. So we keep saying to each other, clarity of intention. And when he won I think he won like $50,000. He said to me, clarity of intention.
Awesome. Wow.
I was, Gary, just before you said that, I was going to say to you, might not want to tell him about all the power of intention, because obviously look what your intention was for the month, and it's not quite the middle of the month and you're halfway there.
That's right. Clarity of intention. Yep.
Clarity of attention.
Yep. And also within my current set of beliefs, which 10,000 is no big deal because I've done it several times, but this time is the first time I'm taking score. And usually I just mentally keep track, and now I'm writing down each one and adding them all up and saying that it's going to be in this month and that sort of thing. Well, guys, this has been so much fun. We intended it to be perfect and have fun, and it was. We have 10 seconds left, so I'm going to say goodbye to you guys now, and we'll see you again next week, and we'll have another wonderful topic to talk about. Everyone, please go to the website. If you're not getting the newsletter, there's the alarm. Hold it. Wait, shut up. Go to the website at theteachingsofjoshua.com. Sign up for the newsletter. We're starting to get on Pinterest now and Twitter, so you can look at Joshua Teachings on Twitter. And we're doing some stuff with social media, but the website really has everything. It's all free, and the question of the week is probably the most fun thing that we do. Until next week, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again. Bye-bye.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks for listening to the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable with Gary Temple Bodley. We will be back next week with another fun discussion. If you would like to ask Joshua a question or read more of Joshua's teachings, please visit us at theteachingsofjoshua.com. See you next week.